Hello.
Can you hear and see me?
Yes. Can you hear and see me?
Yeah. Can I be really rude and say that I just need 1 minute? I'm making some tea.
Oh, yes. You make your
Cool.
tea.
Okay. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay. Can you still hear me?
Yes. I should have shipped a cigar to you ahead of time.
Oh, God. No, that made me vomit.
So you could have that.
So I could vomit.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
welcome to the ADHDan podcast.
Thank you.
Do you know the line?
It's like, let it go, or
Close. It goes where it goes.
it goes where it goes.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's try it again.
Deal.
Welcome to the ADHDan podcast.
It goes where it goes.
Nice. First order of business. I always make a name plaque for the guest. This is kind of a work in progress, kind of like James Webb at the moment. Like it's still coming together. I started working on this. Let me see if I can position it so you can see it. So
Yeah.
It has your name, and then I want to attach a prism here. So you could put it like by the window or something and maybe like see some cool light come across here. Yeah, I'll ship this to you.
Fantastic. Okay.
Is it okay if I move your space helmet
Yeah,
to put
for
the
sure.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. We're good.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
You are an astrophysicist.
Indeed. I'm many things, and that is one thing that I am.
So you have your PhD in that, correct?
That's right. My official professional name is Dr. Kirsten Renee Hall.
So what I realized is you're actually the second PhD to be on the podcast.
Wow, what a privilege.
Do you know who the first was?
No.
Guy Eilenberger.
Guy Eilenberger
Mm-hmm.
has a PhD?
Yeah, he has his PhD in GED.
Very good.
Yeah, Guy Eilenberger did it. So
Very good. I love that.
yeah, so you're kind of the first, kind of the second.
Okay, I accept that.
Okay, so tell me, do you have a specialty with astrophysics? Because I've looked into it and it's so vast.
You've looked into astrophysics, and astrophysics is vast?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do have a specialty. They require you to have one, basically, when you get... The whole thing about getting a PhD is becoming, like, one of the world's only experts in something extremely specific. So, I am an expert. So there's many experts in this broader field that I'm about to give you, in galaxy evolution. So that's basically the way that galaxies, which I can tell you what a galaxy is in definition if you'd like, but the way they've evolved over all of cosmic time. That's 13.8 billion years of our observable universe's existence.
Okay, so to go down the first rabbit hole, cosmic time.
Cosmic time, yeah.
Does that correlate with Big Bang?
Like, what do I mean by cosmic time?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the reason I say cosmic time, so we're just mere little humans living out our very short human lifespans, extremely short relative to this term that I used, cosmic time, which we still measure in human years because we're humans and that's what we conceptualize.
Right.
But compared to the length of the existence of the observable universe, of the universe, which is 13.8 billion years, humans are a blip, truly.
Mm-hmm.
Just there's no other way to put it. So that's why I like to specify cosmic time, because I haven't been studying the way that galaxies evolve over my lifetime or even over the lifetime of the existence of humans, but rather over all of cosmic time.
I have so many questions in my head, but it's just getting them to come out into words. How does one go about finding that idea that the universe is that old, or cosmic time? What did you say, 13.8 billion years?
Billion years, yeah, approximately.
Yeah, so where do you get that approximation?
Yeah, it's really amazing. So, okay. In our current best understanding of our universe, the story goes like this. There was this event called the Big Bang, which actually wasn't a bang. It wasn't an explosion, but rather a rapid expansion of space-time. And that expansion of space-time already contained all of the stuff that exists today. So we call this the matter-energy content of the universe. So you're probably familiar, at least like in passing, with Einstein's E equals mc squared, which tells us that energy is matter and matter is energy. You can convert between the two. That's what the E and the M are, basically. And C is the speed of light.
Yes.
I'm so sorry. I didn't. Okay. Yeah, you did know, and I just jumped in. I get so excited.
But that actually kind of goes back to the question that I asked you a few months ago. If they're equal, then so there's a fixed amount of energy then.
Right. Yeah. So there's this fixed amount of energy or / matter. And so when this rapid expansion occurred, everything was really, really, really hot, like hotter than you can fathom. So hot that atoms. So if you think about, break down what are your building blocks for material. And an atom, like the simplest atom in the universe, which is a hydrogen atom, couldn't exist because it was too hot for the atom to stick together.
It basically melted the glue.
Yeah. The glue was all melty. And what we actually call, the word for it is amazing. We call it a primordial soup, or a quark gluon plasma. So this is getting way too deep, but
I've heard primordial soup before.
Primordial soup, yeah.
Yes.
It's this just goo that existed in the beginning of the universe, which was just actually truly the most fundamental building blocks, even smaller than atoms. So I kind of lied to you whenever I said atoms were the fundamental building blocks, because that's not true. A proton, which you think of as a fundamental particle, is actually made up of even tinier things called quarks. And so you had this quark gluon plasma, this primordial soup, and everything was really, really hot. But as the universe expanded, it started to cool, right? That makes sense. If you take, if you cook some like rice and it's like really hot, but then you like spread it out on a pan, it cools down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? So this is kind of what was happening in the universe. Everything was expanding really, really rapidly and cooling down. Eventually, it got cool enough for these particles to start sticking together, for atoms to form, for hydrogen to form. And included in all of this, the reason I started with that premise of energy equals mass times the speed of light squared is because included in all of this stuff was photons. Photons is the particle name for light.
Yep, and that's what I'm most excited about.
Yeah.
Just so personally, I love light.
I just feel like you're going to love this. We're going to get through this story. I know it's a long one, but bear with me.
I'm enjoying it. I really am.
Okay, I'm so glad. So photons were in this mess. But the thing is that how photons are separate from us fully. And the reason that we see anything is basically the reflection of an absorption of photons. And when the primordial soup existed, photons couldn't escape. What would happen is a photon would try to when you switch on a light and those photons come streaming out, because nothing is faster than the speed of light. Photons are, the fastest thing. It's funny to call them things, but in this universe. So, but they couldn't escape the primordial soup, because what would happen is they were streaming around, but they kept running into all this stuff, and kind of, it was all one thing. But when atoms started forming, that created enough space, so to speak, things cooled down enough that eventually photons could stream freely out into the universe. So they were no longer just constantly running into something and being, absorbed or scattered around, but they could go free streaming. Is this
the bell? I've seen a picture of it. Almost looks like a sideways.
You've seen the bell? Yeah, you've seen that.
Yeah,
that's very cool.
I've really been into a lot of this recently.
Yeah, so that's amazing. So that bell, as you call it, is actually a schematic to describe this whole thing that I'm describing, which is like the whole timeline of the universe. So we're still at the very beginning of the bell, the rounded part. So at that beginning of the bell, there's that little picture of it's like blue and green and yellow. Typically, it's like splotchy, and it's before all the galaxies and everything else. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you remember seeing that in the bell?
Yeah.
Okay, so that vent is when photons went streaming out, and they've been free streaming in the universe ever since. And they imprinted themselves, so to speak, as something that we call the cosmic microwave background. So the reason this is called that, cosmic, kind of obvious, it's the universe. Microwave is because today, in human times, when we observe it at microwave wavelengths. So you can't see it with your eyes. You can only see it with special telescopes, instruments that observe microwaves. And then a background. And the reason it's the cosmic microwave background is because it's everywhere, ubiquitous. It is a background that exists in the universe because it's the imprint of these first photons that went streaming out. And it's this cosmic microwave background that through physical analysis and sort of like a more deeper understanding that I think is worth getting into at the moment, is how we truly know the age of the universe.
Okay.
That's how we date everything back to those 13.8 billion years. And that's because, I will tell you, it's basically because those photons, when they first released, were highly energetic, and over time have lost energy, essentially due to cosmic expansion, to the expansion of the universe. And now we observe them as microwaves, which are much lower energy photons. So they've been losing energy, and there are ways that we can, so because the travel of the speed of light is finite, it's a finite speed, although the fastest in the universe, it's a finite speed. Basically through all those properties and some other little bit more complicated physics, that's how we have dated the universe.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's truly amazing.
Yeah, I had so many questions through that, but I feel like a lot of them would take us down the James Webb rabbit hole, and I kind of want to wait a little bit on that.
Okay. Well, let me just say, were any of the questions like, I didn't understand that word you said?
Some of the words didn't really make sense in and of themselves, but I think that just your explanation just kind of gave me a grasp and an understanding.
A good picture. Okay, good. That's what I'm going for. So
back to the bell then.
Oh yeah.
Call it the bell. Is that accurate?
It has a name. It's and I'm blanking on it. And I actually know the guy who created it. Anyway, who first made that schematic quite well.
Is that accurate that they're saying how it's expanding? Because to me, I would think it would expand. Is that a good question?
That's such a good question.
Okay.
Yeah. So the bell is oh my gosh. He would be so disappointed that I keep calling it the bell and can't think of the name of it. But
I like that you're calling it the bell. Personally.
Yeah, that's what you called it. So that the bell is this weird two-dimensional representation, right?
Okay.
So it's kind of trying to take everything and put it on a timeline. So what you're saying about like the expansion, which I think you were trying to describe like an expansion in 3 dimensions in all of space, is an accurate way to think about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think that does make
more sense. But really quickly, the bell shape is very important, and in fact is mathematically and physically accurate, because the expansion rate of the universe is not constant in time. Whew. So the rate at which the universe is expanding is accelerating, meaning a long time ago, a very, very long time ago, the universe was expanding, but at a slower rate than it is today. With the exception of that initial expansion that I described, there's never been, like, that initial expansion is more rapid, way, 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 way more rapid than the current expansion rate. But after that, so after the emission of the cosmic microwave background, the expansion rate of the universe has been accelerating or speeding up with time.
So the expansion, is that kind of depicted in there when the bell grows?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Great. Great. See, you're putting all these pieces together for me.
Yeah, good. It's amazing.
To kind of backtrack, why did you go down this career path? What sparked your interest?
Such a good question. I love talking about this. Okay. So there's little me, small Kirsten.
Which I remember riding in the back of
probably
a Buick or something.
Yeah. Who was like a total nerd from the get-go, you know? Like, I just really liked school. Like, really, I was homeschooled, as you know, and not my whole life, but when we're talking about, and would just like blaze through my math textbooks like it was my job, you know, like literally. And yeah, just loved little science experiments, stuff like that. Loved the idea of going to college. Like, I really think I was like 6 years old when I thought to myself, like, not only am I going to go to college, but I know there's more learning after that. Like, it's like I heard of the idea of people having PhDs or having doctorate degrees or whatever, and I was just immediately like, yeah, I'm going to do that. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, and most kids at that age are like, okay, how many more years do I have of school? Okay, I'm done. Now I can move on with my life.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So yeah, total little nerd. Just wanted to know all the things. Had lots of questions, and I had no idea. Okay, first of all, I had no idea really what I wanted to do, or even what that meant. Like, honestly, and so I'm a first generation college student, meaning I'm the first of my generation, of my family, to get a college degree. And let alone go on to get a PhD. So I really had just no clue what that even meant. I just decided that it was true and I was going to do it. So that, that's one interesting little piece. So fast forward, I'm in high school, really loved chemistry. Nobody introduced me to physics in high school, which is, I think, an important piece of my story because, and I think the reason, honestly, is because I was a pretty blonde woman, and physics is historically not for
stereotypically you don't fit the mold,
which is just infuriating, and I have a lot to say about that. But
do you even wear glasses?
I wear contacts. Yeah, I do.
Okay, so you're you check one of the boxes.
Thank you. Well, so to be clear, I check all of them, right? Because appearance has nothing to do with what we're capable of in this world and on this planet.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, truly. And that extends, oh my gosh, this is a whole other thing, but if you want to know something else I'm really passionate about, it's get me going on like diversity, equity, inclusion in physics and beyond. But I digress.
Oh, we can go there.
Yeah. So, so I loved chemistry, went, like I said, knew I was going to go to college, went to college, thought, maybe I would be a chemistry major. Maybe I would do like pre-med and go to med school. Cause again, remember, like I had no concept of really what getting a PhD meant. So like when I thought about advanced degree, a medical degree or a law degree or something like that is the most obvious of, sort of reference frames.
Right.
But then you go to college and you meet professors and you find out that like they all have advanced degrees. And so you can like become a doctor of many things, a doctor of philosophy in many things. And so in my freshman year of college, I took an astronomy 101 course just because I thought it would be fun. Like I have lots of fond memories of like stargazing, etc. I knew it would be mathematical and interesting. And I, basically what you think of like astrophotography, like really pretty pictures of space. So I was like, great, I'm into that. But oh man, didn't even know this world that awaited me, and had an amazing professor, Dan Reichert. And, he leads a little research program called Educational Research in Radio Astronomy. It's like this really short workshop that he runs in the summer at a place called the National Radio Astronomy Observatory in Green Bank, West Virginia. So it's this place in the middle of nowhere. It's a radio quiet zone, actually, because there are really big radio telescopes there that look at the universe at radio wavelengths. So remember, earlier I referenced microwave wavelengths. So these are long wavelengths. Radio is even longer, the longest. I mean, many people are familiar with radio waves because of the radio we listen to, but actually you can observe radio wavelengths with special telescopes and then create images of space from that. Yeah. For some reason, a few months ago, Case was telling me one of his teachers said, light travels faster than sound. And I said, well, yes, that's true. And I said, well, what about radio waves? Because radio waves, and this is kind of going off in a little different direction, but I said radio waves, I mean, they're carrying sound. Yeah. It's a conversion. So like the sound waves that you're hearing have been converted to a frequency to emit sound that you can hear.
Yeah, so the only the delay, if there was a delay between the radio station and your radio, it would be on the technical end, not when it's traveling as a radio wave, right?
I don't think I totally understand your question.
So, like a radio wave that goes from the radio station, their tower or whatever, to your radio. Is that in the light spectrum?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's traveling at the speed of light.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
Amazing, right? Yeah. Okay. So yes, so you can observe these radio waves with special telescopes. And that's what I did. I went there for a week and learned how to observe with these special instruments. And in the meantime, like basically you like don't sleep. You observe and you learn a bunch of physics. Like a bunch of graduate students and postdocs come and teach you, and you get together in groups and do little projects. And oh my gosh, it was like the most amazing time.
Yeah,
and
I don't think you'd want to sleep.
No, totally. Like that's like it's like this whole joke at the thing. They're like, you know, it's such a short thing, you know, you have time to sleep later. But anyway, I was just like, this is it. I'm doing this. And that next semester, the first semester of my sophomore year of college, I took my first ever physics course, which was basically like Physics 101, and it's 4 physics majors. And I was so far behind. Like, everyone in this class had taken high school physics. They I don't know, whatever. They knew so much more than me, or so it seemed. And somehow I just didn't care, and I persevered and started doing research later on with a different professor. Started doing actual astronomy research, and decided that I want to go to grad school, because if you really want a career doing science in astronomy, you have the only option really is to go to grad school. I mean, there are some astronomy related things that certainly you can do after getting your bachelor's degree and after your master's degree, but I just got really drawn in by the research parts of it, and so I just hunkered down and focused on that for a long time, and went to grad school for it. So that's my story about how I ended up doing that.
So what do you do now?
Yeah, no, it's such a good question. So I got my PhD, and I defended my thesis in June of 2020. So full swing pandemic.
That would be scary.
But a year prior to that, almost, I started preparing to graduate, and I started applying for a lot of jobs. So the jobs that you apply for in astrophysics to keep doing astrophysics research after your PhD are called postdoc or postdoctoral research positions. This is this weird in-between of okay, you have a PhD, we're going to call you doctor, you know a lot of stuff, but you are still not really qualified to be a professor at a major research institution. You are qualified to teach, so a lot of people go a different route and apply for more teaching faculty related jobs. So I applied for all these postdoc positions in astrophysics, and I also applied for I don't know if you know this, but it's gonna completely derail everything. But I also applied for this particular fellowship that's interdisciplinary in nature, meaning combining disciplines. And the whole point of this fellowship is to pivot from your PhD research field into another field with the aim of solving the world's most pressing problems. How
is that funded? Because that sounds amazing.
It's amazing. So it's called the Schmidt Science Fellowship. It's in partnership with the Rhodes Trust, so you might be familiar with Rhodes Scholars. But basically, it's funded by Eric and Wendy Schmidt. Do you know who they are? Do you know who Eric Schmidt is? He is the former CEO of Alphabet, the parent company of Google.
Okay, so he's a pretty big name.
Yeah, and what does really loves science and funding really innovative science endeavors, etc. So they have a sort of a philanthropic entity called Schmidt Futures, which invests in a lot of different scientific endeavors, and Schmidt Science Fellows is one of them. And so I'm telling you this because I am a Schmidt Science Fellow, and I applied to work in the area of atmospheric physics and climate science. So currently, I am not really doing astrophysics at the moment. I am doing atmospheric physics and climate science as a Schmidt Science Fellow. But like I said, simultaneously, I applied for a bunch of astrophysics postdocs, and I was awarded an amazing astrophysics postdoc. And so what I decided to do was to postpone that, and by the gracious powers that be that allowed me to do this, to postpone my astrophysics postdoc in favor of working on these like climate science related problems for a little while. And then I'll, starting next September, I'll be transitioning back into astrophysics. So basically I, every now and then, meet with some of my astrophysics colleagues to like just kind of chat and keep ideas alive. But my primary focus at the moment is in climate and atmospheric stuff. But what I do is I work as a postdoctoral researcher, which is basically I just spend all my time actively doing research, which for me really means working on my computer. But yeah, so I have a lot of little like tentacles, and I'm wearing several different hats these days. But that's
congratulations on all of that. That is so awesome that you were picked, like, just through the whole pandemic, and that's just amazing.
Thank you. That's really kind. Yeah, I'm fortunate and grateful. Yeah,
I would almost go out on a limb and say the stars aligned for you. That might be a little much.
Yeah.
Then what kind of research do you do? If you're just... Because I could consider what I do research. I mean, I've been watching the James Webb launch and tracking it since, Christmas Day? Yeah. So
do you know
I have it on right now. I'm watching it kind of in the background.
That's amazing. Do you know the story? Do you know the story of James Webb?
Let's get into this.
Okay.
Because
so let me just quickly say the kind of research that I do in astrophysics. So going back to that, I said early on, you asked if I had a specialty, and I said it was galaxy evolution. So I use various telescopes at various wavelengths. So everything from like optical, so visible wavelengths that you and I can actually see, and especially going into longer wavelengths. So infrared, far infrared, microwave, and radio. Those, primarily, like I love being a multi-wavelength astronomer, meaning like X-ray data can be really valuable.
That just sounds important.
Yeah, it's really cool. I combine lots of interesting data sets to study galaxies, but at various different snapshots in the universe. So looking back in time, like say 10 billion years ago, and then looking at galaxy properties 7, 5, 3, 2 billion years ago, that kind of thing. And so a lot of what I do is statistics, like observing many things and inferring like statistical quantities from populations of galaxies over cosmic time. For example, what does star formation look like in galaxies 10 billion years ago compared to the present day universe? And not only what does it look like, but why does it look like that? That's just like one important example of a topic that I study. I also like to study so active galaxies. So galaxies that are forming a lot of stars are really interesting. But beyond that, all right, and I'm gonna like say a big word. I like to study galaxies that have active supermassive black holes at their center, which we call active galactic nuclei.
Here we go.
So
this is what I came here for.
Yeah, I thought so. So galaxies. Let me just define a galaxy really quick, just in case, just for fun, because
right. Because I hear that all the time, and it's just
so you probably have heard that we live in the Milky Way galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
You maybe have seen it if you've seen a really, really dark sky. Where you see this thick. So you see all the like stars that kind of seem to be scattered equally everywhere. But when you see a really dark sky, you see that there's actually this really thick band. I'm sorry, my dog is whining at me because she thinks it's her dinner time, and it's not. So if you hear a weird whining sound,
that's okay. Case is upstairs on a hoverboard, so
okay.
Okay.
This thick band of stars. So what that is it's spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy. The Milky Way is what we call a spiral galaxy. It has a central bulge, collection of stars. So a galaxy in general is a gravitationally bound collection of stars, gas, and dust. Essentially, that's like a very simple definition.
So if it's being held, and held is probably not the correct term, but if it is in the same gravitational pull, then it's considered to be in that galaxy. Would that be
sort
correct?
of. Yeah, that's mostly correct. It gets a little complicated because gravity. So galaxies themselves are also gravitationally bound to one another.
Okay.
But yes, within certain distances and within certain constraints, that's a very good way to classify a galaxy.
Okay.
So we live in a spiral galaxy, which basically has the structure of a bulge and then spiral arms. So it's disc-like in shape, and the arms are spiraling outwards from the center. And what you're seeing is the spiral arm of the Milky Way, which is a region of higher concentration of stars and gas and dust, cosmic dust. There's everything is cosmic everything, of course. But so dust is effectively it's carbon chains. It's like soot from a candle, but it is in space. And those are when you see the spiral arm of the galaxy across the night sky, and you see the dark lanes that are kind of cutting through the bright parts. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm picturing the aurora borealis.
No. Oh man.
For some, I know what you're talking about when you said
desperately everyone to see it.
The lines going through, I thought of that, but
I see.
It's different.
Can I just pull it up on my phone?
Oh, absolutely.
What you're talking about. Okay, so you've maybe seen something that looks like this.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? So
never in person.
You've never seen the Milky Way? Oh my God! No. You live in Pennsylvania. Drive to the middle of nowhere.
I know.
Let your eyes adjust to the dark and stare up for a while. You could.
I know I need to do it.
It's remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
Truly love it. Love the Milky Way. Okay, so you've never seen it, but for those
pictures,
all that dark stuff is dust. Anyway, I've been really digressing, but basically all massive galaxies, which is most galaxies, the vast majority of galaxies have a black hole at their center. And not just any black hole, but one that we would refer to as a supermassive black hole, which is millions to billions of times the mass of our sun. And those black holes at the center, black holes in general, they're some of the most phenomenal, some might say, me probably, the most phenomenal objects in our universe. But they aren't actively, they're not really doing anything. They're just kind of sitting there for the most part. You might have a picture of a black hole, sucking everything into it. But it's not. Unless something comes with it, comes too close. If it comes too close, then it'll be pulled into the gravitational pull of the black hole. And so we have these supermassive black holes at the centers of galaxies that are, largely just chilling, unless something comes close, and then it might fall in. But there are these objects called active galactic nuclei, and these are supermassive black holes at the center of galaxies that are actively consuming material. So what we call an accretion disk. So it's just a disk of material that has kind of accumulated and is flowing into the black hole. And this creates the release of vast amounts of energy. So active supermassive black holes are the brightest objects, some of the brightest objects in the universe. And that's amazing because they provide these beacons of light that we can observe way, 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 way back in time. So in astrophysics, distance corresponds to looking back in time. The further away you look, the further back in time you're looking, again, because of that finite travel speed of light.
Right. Right.
And so I study these active galaxies at different epochs, at different kind of timestamps in the universe, and to learn lots of things about how galaxies grow and evolve, and how like basically why does the present day universe look the way that it looks? Like what are the conditions that led to what we see in the present day universe, like kind of time equals 0 if we're counting backwards in time. That's what I do. That's what I research.
So you said one type of black hole. I think you said it was the second one you referred to. You said it releases a ton of energy.
Yeah, the active galactic nuclei, the supermassive black holes that are actively accreting material. Yeah.
So if there's a finite amount of energy, where is it getting the energy from?
Oh, from the stuff that's getting sucked in. So basically what happens when something falls into a black hole. So if you've maybe heard this before, but if you were falling into a black hole feet first, the gravity, so a black hole is a singularity. It's an infinitely dense point in space. Physics really, our understanding of the physics inside a black hole is a very, very active area of research. But it's so dense that nothing can escape, right? Not even light. Mm-hmm. And so, if you were to be falling into a black hole feet first, for example, the change in the gravity as you're going towards the black hole would be stronger. If this gravitational pull would be stronger at your feet compared to your head. So your feet would start accelerating faster than your head, and you would start to get stretched out. And this would continue happening the whole time. And it's basically you'd be stretched into this really, really thin strip. It's a process that has been deemed spaghettification. And basically, eventually, you would be like ripped apart atom by atom. And when that sort of like ripping apart of material releases energy, releases photons in that physical process. So you're not creating new energy, but it is a process and sort of a conversion between matter and energy.
So if nothing can escape a black hole, does this process happen sometime prior to actually being in the black hole? I know it's...
Yeah, no, that's technically right. Yeah, so there's... You've probably maybe heard the term event horizon. It's this like last sort of point of no return, the last like rim around a black hole that we can see. And so the sort of brief answer to your question is that like, that's what's it's happening over time. And then there's some like threshold, so to speak.
I feel like it's paining you to give short answers. I feel like you really want to like go in. Yes, this is always how it is. There's never you're always looking for the right words that are digestible, right? So it's definitely a practice to be able to succinctly and understandably say what you're trying to say, given the person and people that you're speaking to. Something that I also really love doing, by the way. But yeah. Mm-hmm. If I seem like I'm rambling or something like that, just always feel free to be like, okay, I get it. That's enough. Oh, no, I was going to tell you earlier, if at any point I look distracted, just keep talking. I'll catch up. But if I don't catch up, then I'll just look like an idiot. So it's like a win-win.
No, you can't. You can't look like an idiot. It's not possible.
I'm already wearing a too small tux jacket, so.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
I can't tell that it's too small. Maybe the arms are a little short.
Yeah, I think. I think so.
Very nice.
Okay, so will you talk a little bit about James Webb?
Yeah, okay. James Webb Space Telescope, JWST.
So like 20 years?
Is this project that was conceptualized in like the 90s, maybe 1990, like before I knew anything. And basically it was like this huge undertaking, right? It is the most advanced, sophisticated telescope that we have ever created. And on top of that, it got launched into space. So it took many, many decades to fully conceptualize and bring into fruition. So the launch date of this telescope got delayed and delayed and delayed. And it finally launched on December 25th, 2021, this glorious Christmas present to the astronomers all over the world, or holiday present or whatever it is that, you celebrate. And it's, oh my goodness, it's incredible. So JWST is, like I said, the most sophisticated and advanced telescope that we've ever created. It's going to help us answer some of the biggest questions that we have about the evolution of our universe, and particularly it will look back further in time than any telescope really has on a large scale anyways before. Its whole science mission is to answer some really fundamental questions, like what do the first stars and first galaxies look like? That's a summary of JWST, I think.
The whole thing is just astonishing, just from, like, I didn't know anything about it until maybe a week or so before launch, and then now I'm just completely consumed all the time with it. What are some things that you're most excited for, or whenever it actually reaches L2?
L2, the Lagrange point 2.
Yes.
So L2 is just this physical point in space. It'll be a stable orbit. Basically, all you need to know is that it's a stable orbit. Oh gosh, you can't really, like, if this finger is Earth and my head is the sun, mm-hmm. JWST is going to be in this orbit out here where it's always away from the sun.
And it's just under a million miles.
Yeah, that's right. So it's traveling out there now. I think it's more than halfway there. We're waiting on maybe I actually haven't checked all day, so maybe you can tell me.
We're just under 70% of the way there.
There you go. And maybe you can also tell me if it has successfully deployed the mirrors.
Yes.
Or still waiting.
From what I watched earlier, the second set of mirrors.
The secondary mirror. Yeah. So the secondary mirror and the tripod locked into place. So what that means, okay, so JWST, you've probably seen it's a hexagonal shape and made up of other little hexagonal shapes.
Do you play Pokemon Go?
I have. Well, I don't currently.
You can battle with people, and it looks exactly like one of the Poke shields.
Perfect. Hexagon is bestagon. Do you know this? Okay. There's a really old YouTube video called Hexagon is Bestagon. It's why hexagon is the best shape. So you can check that out.
Like geometrically, is it the strongest or?
Yeah. It's like it fits together the most efficiently with like the most surface area. There's a lot of examples of really great things that are hexagonal in shape, like honeycombs, and you just gotta watch.
Yeah, I'll look that up.
Hexagon is bestagon.
Hexagons are the bestagons.
Yeah, so it's the secondary. So that's the all that hexagonal structure is what's called the primary mirror. That's the first thing that's collecting light. So all those gold pieces. And then the secondary mirror, so it'll bounce off, the light will bounce off the primary mirror and be reflected and funneled to the secondary mirror, where then reflects again. And I think it's just primary and secondary and into the receiver of it gets like collimated, like, so it's collecting all this light from out here, bouncing off the primary mirror, kind of narrowing in, then bouncing off the secondary mirror.
Yeah, that makes sense. And
then going through the thing. So that's how a lot of telescopes work. Sometimes you have a tertiary mirror, like a third reflection if you need. There's all kinds of different structures you might have. Yeah, so it's really exciting. We're waiting to make sure. So the rest of that hexagonal structure of the mirror has to unfold, which is like the last like crucial step. Like we have fully operational telescope. The other cool thing about JWST is it's going to be able to observe like exoplanets and stuff like that. But the stuff that I'm the most excited about is those that really amazing data on the very early universe, the first galaxies and all that stuff. It's right up my alley.
No, well, all of the information gathered, or as the information is gathered, will that be available to the public?
That's a great question. So the way that most world-class telescopes work, including JWST, is scientists they write proposals to have time on the telescope. So the telescope will observe what the individual... So in addition to like sort of main mission science projects, so there's sort of these different classes, but basically, yeah, so it'll observe specific things that people have proposed to have observed, and these cycles go every year. So roughly once a year, you have the opportunity to submit a proposal, and they're reviewed by basically like your peers in the community. Like there are different committees of people who review them and select them. And so then once the telescope takes the data, there's an initial period of time that's proprietary, meaning it like that data only goes to that team of scientists that successfully were awarded that time. But then after the proprietary period, which is sometimes like a year, for example, then that data becomes public, unless the researchers like write a like specific request to like keep the data private for a little bit. Like if they're really trying to work on something very specific and they're worried that somebody else is going to jump in and try to do it before they can get their results out, et cetera, the competitive nature of science, yada, yada. But I mean, for example, like the Hubble Space Telescope, which is, the kind of like the previous generation of really, truly still this amazing, phenomenal telescope that we have. There's so much archival data from HST that anybody can use. And that's really powerful, right? For so many people to have access and be able to analyze it and use it in different studies for different reasons. So, yeah.
I just like seeing, what is out there. I don't do research. I just look at it.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. No, that's one of the amazing things about astrophysics is this sort of awe factor. Like I really love that most of the time, like whoever I'm meeting, I'm talking to, we can come from very different corners of this planet and have a really still have this really like interesting like joint admiration often. Some people don't care at all. Some people don't give a shit about space, I guess. But for the most part, everywhere I look and when I turn around and I tell people what I do, or part of what I do, there's, like lots of questions and lots of that incredible awe factor, and the beauty of space. And, that's so good. It's really good because also when you do something like this, like my job, like my incredible job is to do basic research about the universe. You can get, sometimes if you're like me and you really love people and you really love this planet, you can find yourself questioning what is the how am I helping people, right? Like, what am I doing in my little
Your
bubble?
little blip.
Yeah, like studying space and whatever. What does that bring to the table? And so, yeah, it's something that I confront over and over again. So it's, yeah, amazing.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm so in awe of is when you look at the vastness of space and then you look at, like, under a microscope, the smallest molecules, how similar it all looks. We're like just all part of this. Yeah.
Have you seen that, like, that same, like, sort of mirrored structure of, like, neurological functioning and what we call the cosmic web?
Oh, it's beautiful.
That structure. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's really physics at work, like fundamental laws of physics that create structures that we can understand as, like, atoms, like electrons that are existing in orbital fields around their atomic nuclei, and then galaxies that are gravitationally bound, structures of bubbles around their galactic nuclei, and then in the even greater picture of this cosmic web of a very similar structure. Yeah, it's amazing.
Do you think, this is going pretty far, but this is a thought that I've had in the past when I look at both of, the micro and the macro, the similarities. In the Old Testament, when God said, I am, do you think we're just all part of God? I know that sounds pretty crazy.
It doesn't sound crazy.
It's all connected. I don't know. But then we're only talking about limited dimensions at that point.
Yeah. So, okay. I'm inclined to say yes, but I don't know that I mean that in the same way that you do.
Right.
I mean yes in the sense of, like, yeah, like God is like the expanse of space. Like, sure, that could be one definition of God. That could be this power, or one of the powers this power that is not tangible, not physical. That could be true.
What are your thoughts? I asked last night.
Yeah.
How? Because you were raised. You were homeschooled. Yeah. You were
with a specific Christian curriculum.
Yes.
Yeah. No. Exactly. Yeah. So I don't like. I think it's okay. Religion and belief systems are so individual and so important. And you're asking my particular take, and my answer, in light of you knowing how I was raised, etc., is that I do not subscribe to the Protestant Christian God with a capital H-E. And that's not to say that I like reject all parts of that, because I don't, nor is it to say that I think people who believe or do subscribe to that are wrong, because that's not true either. But my path through life, my experiences in the church, and my knowledge of like fundamental physics, and the privilege that I have to observe the universe in the way that I do, has led me to a really quite separate set of belief systems that I do not collect all in one place.
That makes sense to me.
Cool.
I think you...
So I think if there is one God, if that's true, which I'm not so sure that that's true, I just really can't believe that it is like this he with the capital H-E man who made us in his likeness, et cetera, et cetera. And that has so much to do, though, again, with like my personal experiences
right
in this truly patriarchal structure of Christianity that I was raised in.
I think that's excellent. And it was never my goal when I started doing the podcast to go into church or religion. But then I just found myself constantly asking questions because I'm just so curious, because I was raised very similar. And I just feel like I can't be the only one that's, hit an age and just questioned all of it but felt guilty questioning it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's like such an evolution, right? Like it's an evolution of thought and of way of being. And honestly, like I was the kid, like literally like 6 years old, crying at just the idea that people go to hell, right? Like despising the answer of like, well, they had their chance, they didn't accept Jesus in their heart, so like could just never, like even as a child, couldn't get behind that, right? And so I struggled with that version for a long time, and I adapted that version in a lot of ways. And then actually what I found is that the more that I have these kinds of conversations with people, the one that you described that you keep finding yourself having, the more permission that I give myself, and the more expansive, while also like it's like I simultaneously am expanding my own views on it, right? Whenever I talk to other people, while also feeling a lot more foundational in my own connection to what is divine or spiritual or etc. Right? So and that doesn't always look the same for me throughout. Like even over the past few years, I've had a massive transformation in my connection to what is God or divinity or, what is my relationship with praying and et cetera, et cetera. But I just think that the conversation is so valuable, right? Because like, we're just humans on a planet, like we're just humans on a planet floating through space. And there's so much about being human that is, not tangible, that is deep. We do witness miracles. We do have a connection. Like many people have their own levels of connection to what is spiritual or what can be physically explained or not, et cetera, et cetera. And that's part of the human experience. And it's so beautiful to talk about in a way that is with love, right? Yeah. In a way that is not about like right or wrong, in a way that's not about judgment and condemnation, like none of that. Yeah.
I just like the fact that so far I've just been able to sit down with everyone and just basically say, where are you at? How did you get there? Cool. Okay. That's awesome. Keep doing what you're doing. But you don't get that, I feel. I think that is just suffocated, that kind of conversation. So yeah. Like there's like discouragement in the evolution of what that looks like. There's a really good book, maybe you've heard of it, called Think Again. And it's written by this guy named Adam Grant. He's a professor of, I don't know, psychology maybe. I can't remember, but the whole like structure of the book, the whole thing the book is about it's called Think Again, and it's because it's about the encouragement to rethink everything, and to not consider being wrong
as a flaw on your character or on who you are as a person, but rather just an opportunity to learn something new.
Exactly.
And it's a very good book, and I highly recommend it. So.
Well, I just put it in my notes.
Yeah.
Definitely doing that.
Yeah.
But one of the first conversations I had, it was with my cousin, and he said basically it's a good practice to question your beliefs, because you're either going to strengthen that belief or you're going to disprove it. And if you disprove it, it shouldn't have been your belief.
Yeah,
But
that's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or maybe you're not able to disprove it, but maybe there are just little holes in bigger questions. And right, because like none of us is out here like proving or disproving the existence of God, which is also what is so tantalizing, I think, to talk about and think about.
Mm-hmm.
But when you remove, that judgment, and when you remove shame and guilt from your questions, right? Because also what we're often taught is like that doubt is like this seed of sin, but that's not fair. That's not how it works to be human. And so if that's not how it works to be human, then I can't believe that if there is a God or creator, et cetera, that would be just something that was built into being human. That makes no sense whatsoever, right? Like, how can you have God is love and God built you to be fallible just to prove that you actually like love and worship him? Like, no, he doesn't need that. He, it, she, whatever, doesn't need any of that. That makes zero, like, I just, yeah.
I think I found something that you're just as passionate about as astrophysics.
That's what I started off. You said you're an astrophysicist, and I said I am many things. And it's true. I am many things. I have many passions, and yes, this is one of them. It's so dear to me, right? Because when you are raised in the church, it takes a lot of undoing of shame. And that looks so different for so many people, and I just want to keep reiterating and acknowledging, because I think some people probably found themselves questioning things in the same way I did, and really just continued to dive deeper and fell into a more, that their God handles their shame or their, whatever pain, grief, whatever it is that they're pouring into, and that works. But when I was there, when it was time for me to confront all that, it's just not how it evolved. And so, my path here, being able to talk about it with you the way that I am, has been so fundamental to who I am as a person and who I will continue to be. And so, that's where all that passion is coming from, because it's a passion of love for myself and for other humans who had similar experiences, but also for all the ones who have had very different experiences, right? And as you go through life, you meet such a broader, and I'm so fortunate in this, right? Having, especially going to college and then getting the advanced degree, but there's so many different ways you might do this, having a job in another state, et cetera, but challenging yourself to come across, have these very diverse cross sections of humans that you get to meet and talk to, and the diversity of their upbringings and their religion, et cetera, that can't, for me, that couldn't not shape who I am.
Right.
And a lot of that stems from that fundamental upbringing, right? Mm-hmm. That passion and love for people.
Mm-hmm. But so, I think kind of our generation, I know I'm older than you, not a whole lot, but in the blip of our existence.
We're the same generation, I'd say. Yeah.
I think that there are a lot more of us questioning and stepping back and hey, hold on a minute, we've been doing this for how long? So and another,
just you think that's something that's unique to our generation compared to the ones previous?
Yes. I just think I love to see it. I just love to see, because it shows that we're not afraid to question. We're not afraid to maybe take a different path, or make our own path. And if this person over here, if they don't agree with our path, whatever, I'm just going to keep doing my thing. They can do their thing. I don't care.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Or sometimes you might find a way in which the intersection of your paths like leads you on a new path.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
And
What do you think is the like catalyst for that?
I mean, I hate to say it, but I think possibly maybe social media and the internet, because
It's valid. Like technology in general.
and just having an overabundance of information, just being able to basically have a voice from your behind the computer. You can just broadcast whatever you want. So, yeah, I think that there's a good argument for that.
That makes sense. The social media aspect is kind of also makes sense with what I was saying about those, like the broadening your cross section, right? Like just being able to interact with more humans and hear what they have to say and do that whole conversation bit. Yeah.
Something else that you said that I really appreciated, because this was something that Liz and I decided probably 10 or 11 years ago, because we were just hounded. Oh, which church you go to? You need to go here. You need to have your kids in this. And we decided that we don't want them to have to unlearn things, if that makes sense. I heard that in Rob Bell. I don't know if you know him, but he wrote a book, Love Wins, and he was basically kicked out of the church he was in. He basically says everyone goes to heaven. But yeah, he said, I just don't want my kids to have to unlearn things when they get older. And I thought, that's the exact process that I feel that I went through and am still going through.
I'm not saying that there's never any value in it, but there's certainly a lot of danger that comes from holding on to objective truths that can't be verified. I guess I'm trying to say, I guess not allowing for other possibilities, I think is just a little.
I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I'm actually just about finished. I don't want to keep you all night. I feel like I probably could keep talking. I only have a couple more things. So, one, I truly don't believe we landed on the moon. I just want to put that point out there.
Oh, that breaks my heart. We did.
I don't think so.
We did. Okay. This falls in one of those categories of like. So I guess what would change your mind?
I don't even think if we'd go again, because now I feel we probably have the technology at that point. So the reasons why I don't think we did, I think there was just too much on the line. I won't go into like, oh, well, the crosshairs for the camera overlapped, and I won't go into that, or the flag was waving. But I think we were in a space race. It was a Cold War. We thought, you know what? We need to grow some balls. We need to do this, whether we can or we can't. So let's bring Stanley Kubrick in here and let's shoot this thing.
So I have this thing about conversations like this where, you know, my question for you is genuinely like, what would change your mind? Or is there anything? Is it more data? Is it, like you said, you don't think we would go again, but would it be going again? But that wouldn't convince you that we ever did it in the first place just because we went again.
Right.
So,
right.
like, to me, I'm a little hesitant to really get into it because, like, we did, and, like, I know that we did, but also I respect that you have, like... Okay, so take it to the... So it's just, like, not, like, a very fruitful conversation to have because there's not anything I can say that's gonna... Okay. Where are we gonna meet in the middle? You know what I mean?
Let me say this. Don't tell anyone else. But let me say this. I think there's a possibility that we did.
But you don't want people to know that you think it's possible?
No.
They should know. No, Dan, that goes back to what we were just talking about like holding beliefs and then there being room for change. And like, what if you find out, what if there was some data that you saw that convinced you and then you were able to change your mind? Like, that's valuable. Or what if there was data that I could see that would change my mind? Like, that's valuable.
I wanted to ask you, like, okay, so maybe the better thing to ask would be, what percentage of you thinks we did versus didn't? Because there has to be some doubt in there.
Okay, I'll give you 99%.
Okay, I'll take it. So you're saying there's a chance?
Sure, but only because I think it's really important for me to stick to my principles on everything else that we just discussed.
I agree.
About like new information and changing your mind.
I think it just goes along the lines of, I just want to have an open mind and question things, and I just think I wouldn't get into a full-blown argument with someone over something like that because, but
yeah.
I just like to question things, especially a lot of, what we're told. So that's really it.
And honestly, that is, yeah, by all means. I guess there's like always the caution of like, is this belief I'm holding doing any damage? Like propagation of mis or disinformation can be very harmful, as we know, during going into our third year of a global pandemic. But I will never argue against a healthy dose of skepticism. Yeah, and I was actually worried, and I apologize, I'm keeping you. No, you're really fine. This is why I made it 4 o'clock, because I was like, this is going to be a long conversation, so I'm good. Please don't worry about it. That's good. Yeah.
I was worried that I upset you because, yes, I posted something questioning Fauci's involvement with the creation of COVID-19. And I just, like, there's a part of me that really wants to say, yes, he did it. The NIH, they were all involved. But I just kind of phrased it, the post, something like, if this is true, then I feel like we have a lot bigger things to be worried about if they're doing something like this. Well, then a couple days later, I saw that you posted something about people thought that AIDS were created at, like, I don't know if you said in a lab or what, and like kind of trying to tear that argument apart. And I was like, oh, did I piss her off? Oh shit.
Honestly, I have no memory of you being the specific person who has pushed any of my buttons during this time. So rest easy in that.
Great.
It's very, honestly, if I did see that post, I would take some issue with it. So these have been some trying ass times, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's been a tough time for science, a tough time for scientists. I have a lot of friends in the like sort of biochemical sphere. People who think a lot about vaccines and all kinds of stuff. And social media is a dangerous place for the propagation of mis and disinformation that really can do harm in the midst of a public health crisis. So while I think that that what you're saying about, if this is true, then my God, we have some serious shit to to question. That's not a false statement, but also, is it adding value or is it contributing to dissent in a time where people are dying because because people don't trust science. Because there are a lot of people dying because people don't trust science right now, is my very honest view.
Yeah, and I can definitely appreciate that point of view, certainly.
Yeah, but like I said, I have no memory of you specifically being somebody I would never thought.
But now you'll remember.
Dan. Yeah, well, yeah, now I know. Listen, and like, you know, oh my gosh, like I'm here for questioning the moral compass of our powers that be, of our institutions and government, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I'm here for it. I get it. Like
the moon landing.
Yeah, well, people aren't dying because we did or didn't go to the moon, you know? Mm-hmm. I mean, at the time, it's interesting, right? During the Cold War, where there was so much hate and
we needed to show who was boss.
Sure, fine. But what I'm saying is, like, at the time that the moon landing occurred, like, people immediately saying that's fake. Like, during that time, yeah, that's also harmful, and can, you know, cause unnecessary dissent, I think.
Do you think
that's not the same as this, though?
Right.
Not at all. This is a public health crisis.
Do you think that I hate to question the integrity of science, but do you think that sometimes numbers might be skewed for dollars?
Oh.
In any situation?
Yeah, okay, sure. I'm not going to deny that would be true. There's lots of examples of but it's not like the science or the scientist that is flawed. Typically it's like the institutional structures.
Yeah, yes, I believe that.
So like who's putting out the information, and
right.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there are so many examples of that in history. So I'm definitely not going to say that. Otherwise.
But I just take something like that and I run too far with it, though.
I see.
And I question everything. So
yeah, I mean, so what's cool about that, though? What's cool about being a questioner, and what's also cool about like our modern times, is like access to resources. But what's really crucial is having the tools to discern what is a legitimate resource or not. Mm-hmm. Right? So the internet is a scary place because everything is on the internet. Anything and everything. Like, I can make a website in no time and write whatever I want on it, and people will stumble across it if they type in the right search words. Mm-hmm. So there is a lot of value to be placed on asking questions, but an even equal importance and value in having the right resources and discernment to know what is legitimate or not. And you know, one thing about science in particular is we have, you know, I mean, as a scientist, like, I'm not going to tell you I don't take issues with the ways that certain things that are done, but like when you look across the board and consider like the peer review that goes into like publications, et cetera, and like what kind of comes out on top, like that is to be trusted. Like, these are scientists, just like they're not. Their motivation is most scientists' motivation is to find answers, like true answers to questions. There are very few people out there who, like, we always say this, you don't get a PhD in astronomy, for example, for the money. Like, professors of astrophysics are not paid very well. You can leave and go into industry and do like data science and statistics, et cetera, and make 2-3 times the salary you would otherwise. So that's also worth keeping in mind.
Yeah, I think that's a crucial part to just that whole idea.
Yeah. That was a really good question. It's so, oh my gosh, I just talk about it. You're just picking on all my little, you're like, I think I found something you're passionate about. Well, by all means, like, that's a big one too, for sure. like, our education system and how we teach people to think critically and not, and et cetera, et cetera. And it's all a feedback loop, right? It's all connected. It's systemic. I have lots of thoughts about people in power not wanting to relinquish any of that power, and therefore, like, you know, to be sort of deductive or derivative, I guess, is like keep the small people small. And that's by not giving them the tools that they need and the resources that they need to do otherwise.
Do you think?
Because everybody has the capacity. Yeah.
Right. So, to go down a rabbit hole, do you think that the current space race that we're in right now, because I've heard this from a few people, is basically the 1%ers trying to have a, what do they call it, a multi-planet species?
Yeah. Are you talking about, like, the space race that you're talking about is, like, literally, like, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos going to space?
Right.
Yeah, fuck. So that's my...
do you think, is there any part of you that subscribes to the conspiracy that they are doing that to kind of leave basically the slaves behind and do their own thing?
I mean, like, yeah, sure, but, like...
Yes, I got you to subscribe to something.
Yeah, sure, but, like, seriously, my take on that is summarized as those guys. Like, I just can't. Like, it's not...
I love Elon Musk.
He's an asshole. He's a really bad person, Dan.
I'm sure he is, but he has
this
so
is like...
much good like...
Just out here...
Simulation theory.
I'm sorry. See, also my cursing comes out when I get really...
Oh, no, I like it. I usually block out the F words because I feel like it's
I know, I'm sorry.
No, I just think at some point, if I'm able to monetize YouTube, I don't think you're allowed to have F words.
Yeah, okay,
but,
sorry.
Yeah, no, you can say them all you want. No, what do you think about simulation theory?
Screw those guys, that's what I think. Like the idea that we're all in a simulation?
Yeah, and that there are more simulations going on, that we are creating simulations ourselves.
Well, we are. Wait, hold on. There's different things happening here. So the idea that the whole universe is a simulation and that, like, we are little pawns in a simulation. No, that falls in the category of, like, belief system. And that's not I don't subscribe to that. But what you said about how we're creating simulations, we are. So,
I mean, basically the argument...
What's the connection?
So with simulation theory, basically they're saying with the rate that we've progressed with technology in the past, like 20 or 30 years, if we continue at that rate, we will either be able to create our own simulations as far as more like basically the Sims games. So where you're creating that and that is reality. Like, just touch your hand. Like, what makes that real? Just the thought that you've always been here.
Like,
you've
like
always...
an electrical signal, like being sent to your brain.
Yeah, so that's... You can determine, okay, that's real because I can touch it, but is it really real? Because it's really your mind telling you that it's there. So what would make someone think that it's not possible to create a being inside of a computer that thinks the same thing?
Oh, for sure. Oh, it absolutely is. Yeah. I get the whole, like, I'm not disproving or like discrediting even the, like, that whole picture. It's just, also, like, I mean, I know a fair amount about artificial intelligence and about, like, data science, machine learning, et cetera, what we're capable of. So sure, like, I can very much fathom that being true, that we create whole functioning, if you wanted to, whole functioning societies of electrical signals that have sort of independent thoughts, so to speak, like this artificial intelligence idea that you maybe can create something that sends a signal that then therefore reinforces the idea that it's real. First of all, like, the extent of that technology is still kind of far off. but there's also like a lot of there's just like a lot of dangers in AI. I was actually just talking to some friends about this last night, and
I like this because I think it's a dangerous road. But
it is dangerous. Have you heard this? Like this, he told me, but I hadn't heard this. But apparently, it's like a very classical example of like you teach a thing to make paper clips, so that like you don't have to make paper clips anymore. And so this robot that makes paper clips and just it's its only goal, right? So it like uses up all the resources in the factory that it was given to make paper clips, but it's still on this mission to make paper clips. So it goes around and starts mining its materials from the earth to make paper clips, and it uses up all the material on the earth to make paper clips, right? But then it kind of runs out of that raw resource, but then it's connected to the internet, et cetera, et cetera. It learns effectively, like the end result is like it learns that like humans have like iron in our blood, and it like thinks that it's worth extracting that material so that it can keep making paper clips, right? Like it's so ridiculous, but also like there's like a danger there, right? That like there's this like creation of, so that's just like apparently like one classical example of that you can imagine. But there's also like a problem in so like I think going back to what we were talking about earlier about like, or what I was really honestly ranting about being human and the intangible aspect. Like, are you imagining that that is also created in a simulation, that we have these like really intangible qualities of being, like these emotions that we feel, these really, really complex systems. Furthermore, like we get the opportunity, like we bring a lot of like wisdom, right? Like, how do you quantify like wisdom and the ability to the expansive nature of wisdom? Like AI doesn't have that. What do you think about that?
Yes, but I think also our reality and our like feeling those non-tangible like emotions and things, that I just think that's relative to like that's just what we know. So I think like AI could maybe not experience emotion the way that we do, but they would experience it in their own way. Because I just think that we break down to ones and zeros. I think our whole existence, and we try to explain consciousness and emotion. But I think that's something that you can't really necessarily explain. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's fair.
But Elon Musk, Elon Musk, simulation theory, he explains it 1,000,000 times better than I do.
And you dig it.
Yeah. I think.
You think that's what's going on? I didn't understand what you meant by like emotions. That's just what we know. That's not true. You have to learn to like understand your emotions. Like emotional intelligence is very real.
Yes, but how
really dictates the way that you operate in the world.
But how do you define it other than by the limit of your brain and how you function?
Yeah, but that's my point.
But my point is, we just kind of struggle to explain that. What's to say that AI could have an issue explaining the way that they're feeling and interacting?
Well, I guess I'm coming from my knowledge of like what AI is as of right now.
Right.
So
right.
Maybe that's not helpful because maybe the point is that like we haven't gotten there or something.
No, and I think also, like I was saying, with how fast technology has advanced, and you said, oh, it's still like a ways off. Really, I just feel like who knows anymore. I just think there's so many breakthroughs and they're coming so fast that...
Yeah, remarkable. It's amazing. Are you familiar with the idea of the singularity of like human consciousness or whatever? That like basically, well, like our brains can be uploaded to the system kind of thing?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think it's possible.
Yeah. See, I think that is. I also think that that's possible. Like in some, like I'm not.
So do you think that can be transferred?
But there's like this weird kind of like line, I guess, between.
Okay, then that's where I want to go.
We've gone there. We did it. We did it. We found it.
Okay, I have 5 questions. You have 10 seconds to answer each question.
We spent like 20 minutes on each question. So, okay, how many seconds, sorry?
10 seconds for each question. These are rapid fire.
Oh, gosh.
What is your favorite color?
Green.
Favorite restaurant?
Oh, it's so changing. I'll just say my favorite cuisine right now is Indian.
10. Did you say Indian?
Yeah.
I think you got it in right under the buzzer.
This
So you're
is my
good.
favorite cuisine.
Yesterday or tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
I like that. Favorite planet and why?
Earth. It used to be Jupiter. Earth, because it's the most beautiful. It provides life. It's the most diverse.
Okay, I think you ate into some of your 10 seconds for the last question.
Oh wait.
I'm kidding. Okay. Last question, 10 seconds to answer. Are space and time relative in different ways to each individual? And if so, how?
I'm just going to spend my 10 seconds laughing. Yes and no. Time is a human construct. We all measure it the same. But I guess if you have some altered reality, then certainly you're experiencing things differently. So yeah, totally. Space, also yes. I mean, that I could interpret that question in a million ways. Like, that's what I have.
No way to get that in.
Depends on how fast you're traveling.
Yes. This is excellent.
Good.
I mean, that's not everything I have, but I'm going to let you go because...
Yeah. I'm hungry.
Yeah. Same here. Okay.
Thanks so much. This was so fun.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Thank you.
Really good.
You have to send me your address so I can send you your name thing.
Deal.
I'll send that to you. And I thank Anthony Menzia for the intro and outro music. Thank Luke Means, who is my patron at the moment. So thank you very much, Luke. I guess that's everything.
All right. Cheers.
Yeah, you have a great night. I'm going to go try to find the Milky Way.
Oh, good idea. All right.
Okay. See you later. Bye.